Welcome to the Free Play Arcade podcast featuring Michael Beltran.
Hello, everyone.
And, of course, Free Play President Corey Hyden.
We are back in the lab. Today we're talking, it's interesting, probably going to be controversial topic because this is something that we get a lot of talk about. Games that will never make it to free play for one reason or another. Let's talk about it. Let's see. Let's dive in. We might try. I mean, we're just going to talk games here and see where we go with it. The very first game that we're going to talk about is a game we were trying to get out for Weird Games Month. We ran Weird Games Month. Back when we had one arcade, it was really cool to do these one-off things where we could just bring in a different game a week. And it was called Weird Games Month. And we were prepping a bunch of different games. We had Bug On or whatever it was called. It was actually where
This is around the first time I actually made it out to the secret lab before my employment, because you guys were prepping those weird games.
Yeah, so we were prepping all these really strange games, and one of the games we were trying to see if we could make work was Gal's Panic 3. Chris, I guess educate me really quick. What is Gal's Panic?
To know what Gal's Panic is, you have to know what a game called Kix is. Q-I-X, Kix. And you basically make lines around a play field, and you make little rectangular squares, and that claims that portion of the play field. So you slowly try and take over this full screen, and it's a very wire graphics, like it's very, very rudimentary.
Well, and if you've played lots of games throughout the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, it's been that exact game style where you capture area by drawing a line. It has been featured as a mini game.
Basically in squares.
And a lot of stuff. It was in one of the Commander Keens. It was in Bully. The Rockstar game, you earned art credit by playing Kix.
Yeah.
And then there was Gal's Panic.
Right, and at some point, people figured out like you don't just have to you can do more than just capture like area. You can make that area say a picture, and then when you think of what you can do with a picture, you get where we're going with Gal's Panic, where it is an incredible gameplay version of Kix. Maybe the best. In my opinion, it is the best.
Many people do consider it the best. And especially Gal's Panic 2, 3, and 4 as kind of being the perfect version of Kix. So in Kix, it's just capture little area and it changes color or whatever.
Changes tint a little bit.
So Gal's Panic, you instead reveal things, and in Gal's Panic you reveal naked women.
Oh my.
Yes.
And various naked women, realistic photo style naked women, or like anime girls. It's a weird game. Now the gameplay is amazing, and it was perfect for Weird Games Month, except of course trying to cope with putting out a game that's gonna have nudity. We came up with plans. We were talking, let's put the thing on caster wheels and just wheel it out at 9 p.m. because at 9 p.m. we go adults only. We were gonna try stuff like that. We talked about like putting like a little velvet thing around it where you like peeked in there.
Oh man!
It'd have like 18 up thing, and then we of course thought better of it because I specifically remember during the city council hearing to let us open, they're like, you're not gonna have like any like weird mature games, are you? And we were like, well, we're going to have these shooting games, and they weren't worried about that. They were actually specifically worried. They somehow knew something like Gal's Panic existed before probably I did. Wow. Because they didn't want those kind of games. And they were also talking about gambling games and stuff. But yeah, so Gal's Panic is a beautiful, wonderful game that just happens to have weird nudity.
But the tragedy of it is so good just from a fundamental gameplay perspective. It's greatness.
So yeah, we had actually...
and there's nudity for no reason at all.
We had purchased a game lot of like 50 games, and on it was an old Gyrus that had been converted to Gal's Panic 3. It was a decent conversion, and it actually... and of course it had the naked girls in it. And we went through all the settings to try to figure out, and they let you kind of tone it down. And every time we toned it down, and I think that's actually why I brought Chris over, because it was getting to the point where I couldn't advance far enough, and I needed Chris to come play it, because I was like, I just need to see. And then of course, yep, there it is. Naked girl, naked girl.
Oops.
It's like a weird truck stop. I don't even know what the Japanese equivalent, because it's a hardcore Japanese game.
This is the thing I will say about Gal's Panic. It's so good gameplay wise. I saw it out in Japan. You don't stay in the arcades in Japan unless you are performing. that game is very, very good and still performing enough to justify its spot in the arcades in Japan. And
was
I played
it Gals
it out
Panic
there.
2 actually we were trying to get? I can't remember. Anyways,
I
one of
can't
the
remember.
Gals Panics.
But I definitely played it out in Japan because, again, the gameplay is gold, and for some reason we're revealing nude photographs. But, you know, if you can somehow turn that off, man, it would be greatness, and it would never leave the floor because it's so good.
Right. It gameplay wise, it's better than Kicks.
It is better than Kicks, yes.
It is.
It's the same style, but better.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
and I like what's really irritating is the different changes that we were able to do to try to turn it off would like take away the nipples. Like that was it. It actually just instead of the girl having nipples, it would just make it flesh colored kind of area. And so it still looked totally weird, totally nude.
Man.
And so for those wondering at home, Gals Panic will not make it, and it's
so sad.
it is really sad. It's
Totally nude now.
it is.
Julie likes that game quite a bit as well, right?
Julie here, our administrative assistant, female. So, like, I think the interesting thing here is it's like such a good game, and it's not gratuitous or anything. It's just weird because you're earning a photo of a naked woman.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's an animated naked woman. I mean,
Right.
and I can't remember. It's not. Yeah, there's nothing like overly overt. It's just you're slowly uncovering that, and then your reward.
It's if you've seen Major League, it is the they're revealing the clothing pieces. It's that.
Yes. So
It's almost exactly that. In fact,
that is pretty
someone
much
probably went to Japan at that time because that's about the time that the original Gals Panic came out, and they were like, "Whoa, this game's insane! Let's make a movie."
Oh, we suck again.
So yes, Gals Panic will not make it to the floor. No version of Gals Panic that I'm aware of will make it.
Don't sell those games.
It will be sad. Well, yeah, it'll just probably
keep it here.
sit in the collection forever. I don't really know what to do.
I
with
need to sneak away to the lab for something.
I don't know what to do with it. But it's probably too because there's another game called Sexy Parodius, which Parodius is a parody of Gradius, and it's a really cool shmup. And in fact, Parodius in many ways people prefer. But that never really crosses the line. Like we had a question, and we're working on getting a game like that out. And we had a question whether or not that was too far, but it's totally goofy. Like it's a scantily clad animated star dancing, so it's like it's not nearly as bad. I mean, it walks the line, but it's on the safer side. Gals Panic unfortunately crosses the line, and
I think as risque as we've gotten so far is what the Scramble marquee.
right, jeez, the bezel around Scramble's glass.
Go to Free Play Arlington and go look really closely at Scramble.
Yeah.
You'll have a show.
It's really interesting too because every single employee of Free Play has walked up to me and like, "Have you seen this?" And it's like an alien girl holding something, but
A microphone. Of course.
It's relatively
It's a very phallic microphone.
phallic in nature, yeah. And the great thing is our Time Pilot 88 there is or 84.
84.
Is
Yeah,
84.
84.
Time Pilot 84. Is a converted Scramble, which surprisingly that bezel looks pretty good on a Time Pilot 84.
I didn't notice.
Right, and then
It took Palmer to tell me.
right now we have them right next to each other, so
Okay.
there's two copies of it. But yeah, we're generally probably not going to get away with showing nudity for a lot of reasons. And yeah, in Japan it's totally different. You can just go to the arcades, but the arcades are a little bit more adult in Japan, anyways. There are kids there, but there's also a ton of smoking, right? And there's a ton of
Oh yeah. No, it's a den.
So having one of these games isn't a big deal. It's really
It was literally in the basement with it was like two arcade machines down from columns where there was a guy playing for forever.
right. It's really sad too because you could put any other photo on this exact game.
Or no photo at all. If you
photos
turned
of
it back to Kick's style,
it would
still be the
best of them.
Tragedy.
So no Gals Panic. All right, so that's one category, kind of the nudity, pushing the line too far, which is I definitely don't want to go down this road, but it is kind of interesting to think that we have games like Carnival that are you're just like brutally
Violence.
murdering clowns with shotguns and stuff, and then one photo of a naked girl is where I have to be like, no, we can't do that.
or like Splatterhouse or something.
Well, yeah, and there are lots of controversial, violent games.
Which is why Blueprint will never make the floor.
Now, Blueprint is a weird game. It's oddly rapey.
Oddly rapey.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's really creepy. But I love the game. I think it's a really neat game, and it's one of my favorites. It's not that popular, but I keep it out because it's like just so unique and weird.
It is unique.
And the people that like it love it. And have you ever played it? It's at Arlington. It used to be at Richardson.
It was at Richardson.
I haven't played it yet, but I am taken back by the term oddly rapey.
Yeah, so there's the bad guy has kidnapped your girlfriend and spends the whole time chasing her, and he's like leering and grabbing.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. And you're building a machine of parts as you explore a neighborhood to launch a ball at him. Like, that's literally the game.
He's being perfectly accurate.
All right.
That is what happens.
Awesome.
So, I mean, yeah, but
this exists.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's out on the floor because, again, that sounds completely insane, and yet that is the truth.
Right. It's a unique game and just really interesting. All right. So, yeah, but there were controversial games that we do feature. I mean, Splatterhouse was really quite controversial.
Fun,
banned
too.
in different countries. Well, yeah, Splatterhouse is probably the best version of that style game.
Yeah.
And so Splatterhouse we don't have on a permanent anywhere.
Yeah, because Halloween comes every year.
Yeah,
I get so excited when Splatterhouse hits the floor.
We pop it on during October, and we will either like mysteriously convert a game. We're doing all sorts of cool stuff because Splatterhouse is just awesome. And,
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing that you get to experience like that one time of the year. So then Mortal Kombat was also super controversial, obviously, and not even at all anymore. Like it's so like it was so controversial. It was so just like, I mean, it was banned in countries. People hated it because it was photorealistic, is what they called it. And now if you look at Mortal Kombat 2, you look at that, you're like, that's what you were worried about. Like, it doesn't look real at all.
It just feels like that was a real homage to 80s action movies. I mean, all the graphic, gratuitous fatalities were directly lifted from our favorite 80s movies, whether it's Sub-Zero and his Predator finishing move, or just any number of like Raiden's clearly from Showdown in Little Tokyo, and it's that's what it was, right? Or is it Showdown in Little? I don't know. The Jack Burton movie. But it's all right there, and I just think people at the time were not prepared for video games to be for adults, like appreciated by adults.
So yeah, you never saw anything like that.
Right.
I mean,
it was the first time.
Yeah, first time you saw just blood and guts on the screen. Whereas,
why are you exposing 7-year-olds that clearly you are intending to play this game to blood and guts? And the truth is, we're not. Don't want them to play it. We want adults to play this game that we have handcrafted and we love.
Right, and of course the rating system became a big deal around that time, and so but. Everyone's kind of over, and that's what's really sad. Like, Gal's Panic, we're not putting out because it is going to piss people off. It's going to anger people. It'll irritate them, and not because it's not a great game, and not because we think it has a. And that's kind of sad, right? But
yeah, because the gameplay.
But yeah, we can put out these brutally violent games, which, you know, in some it's comical. Like Mortal Kombat 2 is comical, but I mean things like Carnival to me is like, I think it's a wonderful game. It's a great light gun game, but it's that is pretty aggressively violent. Yeah. And we've never had a single complaint about
Double
it.
Dragon kills me. Double Dragon, you hit start.
Right, the beginning when he punches the girl,
right? That's
and carries her away.
That's essentially her only appearance in the game. Is she just gets slugged in the stomach and dragged away.
Well, and that was
at the beginning of every single game.
Well, yeah, I remember playing it so much as a kid, and like
I didn't even think about it as a kid.
Right? It's just like. Watching it now, that's when I'm like, why is this in this game? Like,
right.
It doesn't
belong at all. Yeah.
So violence, not a big deal. Nudity, still a big deal. We'll see. Maybe in 30 years we'll still have it. We'll roll it out.
I'll never stop liking playing the game.
So another controversial game that we have out that is probably definitely not nearly as controversial that most people forget about is Punch-Out. For being stereotypical.
Oh, the racism.
Overly. Yeah. So a lot of great games come from Japan, right?
Right.
But Japan has its own weird history, obviously, with cultural issues, race issues. And it didn't even occur to them that they were being so ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I understand. They're goodness, they're just thinking of trying to put this culture in the game, and so they just tossed every racial stereotype possible at it.
Well, and yeah, they're trying to make a game. Generally, I mean, they were targeting the U.S. market, so like in their head, they don't really. I mean, they're used to the United States from movies and stuff like that. And these game programmers aren't above that, and it didn't even occur to them. And that was quite controversial at the time.
This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I remember playing Police Quest for the first time. Like, I played it when I was a little bitty kid. It's an old PCC era game.
Yeah.
A graphic point-and-click adventure from way back in the day. And in fact, I don't even think this one was point-and-click. You typed in commands, right? So I'm playing like an old Anniversary collection. It's about 7 years ago. And I'm in a plane about to fly to LA. I'm actually beating the game because you just sort of follow the manual and you beat the game. And yeah, I saw a character riding a character with a turban. And I'm like, this is so stereotypical. And I was just like, shoot terrorist. And immediately like pulls out a gun and starts shooting at him. Right. He hadn't even done anything. Right. He just wore a turban. The end.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Great job.
It was...
It was a different time. A different, extremely racist time.
Well, yeah, and now we see it, and it's just like it's quaint and like funny. But yeah, it was controversial at the time. So we have Punch Out at Arlington. We have Punch Out on the PlayStation pretty much everywhere. It's a fun.
Oh, it's a great game.
Everyone loves it.
And Street Fighter. Right. It suffers from similar issues.
Street Fighter, it's the more you think about it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we need different people from different countries, and so they were like, stereotypes everyone.
Right.
Yeah, everyone's a stereotype.
No, I'm a Dawson player. So whenever Nick wanted to shoot a video hyping up our Super Turbo tournament, they're like, Chris, you need to dress up as Dawson, and I was like, absolutely not. Right. I'm not racist.
No, that's not going to come off well.
Yeah. No.
It's Yeah, that when you think about that, they just couldn't help themselves because they just had to make a good game, and that was, I guess, what they needed. I don't know.
Well, you needed characters. Let's make one.
Right. Well, what do people from India look like? That's it. What do boxers look like? That's what a boxer looks like. I mean, that was
in that case, it just looks like directly like Mike Tyson.
Right. Well, and that's kind of interesting, right? Because Mike Tyson later comes and is Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and they kind of reformulated and everything, but that's kind of interesting.
No. Boxer's Mike Tyson. Guile is Val Kilmer from Top Gun.
Ken is pretty not stereotypical of anything.
Just blonde,
generic
American,
white guy.
Blonde white guy.
Yeah. All right, so those are some controversial games that we do have. This next one we're going to talk about. It's not coming to the floor, not because of any controversy, just because the logistics and the actual game is impossible. So about maybe a year and a half ago, we were buying a game lot from a guy, and he had a full motion power drift.
Awesome.
Ooh.
And it still worked. And I'd actually seen a lot of these that had bad hydraulics or whatever issues, motors dying, all sorts of stuff. And once they go, they're just it's an actual boat anchor. These things weigh like 1,500 pounds, difficult to move. But this one actually worked, and we were so pumped to get it.
Works even over there.
Yeah, it's here in this room. It works. It's a ton of fun, and it needed a lot of work before we'd ever be able to get it to the floor. It needed seat work. I think he threw an LCD in there. I mean, it's not perfect, and we were gonna have to do a ton of work. And then the more and more we thought about it and we played it, we realized it could never come to the floor. And if you've ever played one of these Sega full motion cabs, it turns, right? It goes side to side. And think about the major product we sell at Free Play, which is
alcohol. Yeah.
Delicious glasses of beer. And the very first turn, it's all going to be on the floor. Or even worse, they'll set it down on the game.
Oh, yeah.
We have enough spills as it is.
And it might legitimately kill someone, too.
Right, yeah. There's also, it is a big, huge game moving very, very fast and side to side. And yeah, kids... it would never survive kids. Kids might not survive being around it. It's to the extent any arcade is a death trap. This one is kind of a death trap. You're throwing people. It's a ton of fun. It is amazing, and we've actually had power drift on the floor previously.
Right, but not that.
But not the full motion, and we will never have any probably full motion game.
It just can't happen.
Which is sad because that was kind of a cool throwback in the early '90s and late '80s. They were making these cool full motion gimmicks. But it was so from a nostalgia aspect, I really wish there was a place that could do that. And we contemplated roping it off. We contemplated just all sorts of different weird ideas, from simple like putting a no drink sign, which would no one would
Not
even
at all work. Yeah.
No one would even read it. They'd sit down, they'd play, they'd spill their beer. They'd get mad at us because they spilled their beer and probably break the game in the process. So yeah, none of that worked. We thought about trying to throw it out for one day only, but the biggest issue there is it does need some work. It does, and so we're not going to put out a kind of half finished game for one day only. So yeah, it was crushing because Power Drift's a cool game, and it actually is made better, I think, by having the full motion. You've played it, yes?
Yes. Yeah, I played it back in the day as well.
And yeah,
it's not even the best racing game,
right?
But yeah, that's its gimmick. So without it, it's kind of sadly not getting out to the free play floor.
We've never had a motion game at free play, and
we just can't.
You're right. Well, and you kind of see if you've seen any of the modern stuff that they do, the movement is severely limited nowadays. They'll have very, very minor things, and of course they have Rumble. It is what they've kind of substituted with, and they've been using Rumble for a long, long time too. So
that's a little more safe, Rumble.
Right? Yeah, having your seat kind of move around by not moving at all, by just shaking, is much better than the whole entire, because this thing is a whole car sized thing shifting from side to side.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Afterburner comes to mind for me.
From Terminator 2.
Man. Afterburner. I remember just being a kid and sitting in that cabinet and just moving all over the place.
Well, yeah, it's like a rocket ship, basically. I mean, you're in this cool ultra cabinet and it's, I think that even had the vertical.
Yeah,
I mean,
the whole thing moves around. Yeah, if you watch the arcade scene from Terminator 2, he's playing Afterburner.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, I wonder if someone, not us, because we someone that doesn't serve alcohol
can bring out a hydraulic
that charges per game, because that's probably also necessary, because that on free play is just not going to survive. Charges per game might be able to get one out, and maybe someone that watches this can tell us if they know of any that are the full motion arcade games that they released from like 85 to 93, 94. If they are aware of any still being played in the
full
country.
Hydraulics, the whole thing moves around. Robert Patrick's trying to kill you.
Right. Yeah. Because if there are, I might just I want to see photos. And just
I remember it cost 75 cents back in the day. It was the first time I could remember a game costing that much and thinking, I don't have 75 cents, and it is absolutely worth it.
Right. Yeah. It was, it took the immersive experience to the next level. And that's actually another thing we've never technically had, is a true cockpit racer. We have them in the collection,
right.
where you actually have the top, right? We have sit downs.
Turbo?
So
EDOTs like that, kind of.
Yeah,
even
so
Sega
racer. Turbo, the environmental discs of Tron. Which both of those we have in the collection.
Pole position, maybe?
We have
Road Blasters.
There's a Road Blasters and we have all of these in the collection,
right.
and it's the biggest issue there is one, space.
Yeah.
Two, it just, they aren't materially better.
And it doesn't add anything to the game. It's just you're sitting down in a giant cockpit. It's kind of cool, but it's also kind of like superfluous.
Well, there's a lot more things to break, and they're subjected to a lot more kind of graffiti style stuff. So that I can't say we'll never have a cockpit, but it's difficult because normally, we have a road, because Road Blaster's cockpit was this huge, like 7 or 8 foot long thing.
It's like a big triangle.
That slants straight down, or not straight, but it slants at a hard angle, and it's so cool looking, and it's a little narrow. It's tiny, like it's like this wide, but very futuristic looking. And of course, if you play Road Blasters, that doesn't even really make any sense. Like, why would they do that like that? But Road Blasters is a great game. That one is also a great cockpit. So we've never had those, but more space. Like Richardson arcade there is pretty packed already.
Yes.
And it's not like we could fit a huge game, especially one that's not, that we could put the stand up and get, because we have Road Blasters at Richardson right now.
And it plays wonderfully.
Right. It's the game experience. So those are, size we've had some issues with in general. And and if you've seen the Power Drift, the size of this thing is also intimidating. The full motion Power Drift probably takes up the space of 6 arcade games. Not to mention the actual space that you have to be concerned that you're going to hit people. So that would be a lot to dedicate to a gimmick. Although, if you have seen one in the country, we want to know about it. It would be awesome.
There was also another game we had on the floor, but not the the hydraulic version. It was not Sega Rally, but it was the one where Sonic's like swinging back and forth.
Oh,
on
what
the
the heck
chandelier.
is that? Why can't I? Is that? That's not Power Drift. That's the other one.
Is that Rad? Something?
Radmobile.
Radmobile. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had that, and they made a full motion of that one too.
Yeah, I played that one back in the day, but it's similar. The whole thing is rocking.
Right. It's a very similar game, and same board set and everything.
Yeah. Gameplay wise, that one's more akin to Outrun.
Yeah, and both of those games we like and we've had on the floor before, but they're not very reliable. The board sets in general are buggy, glitchy, and you get sprite issues constantly.
Yeah, you were talking about how Afterburner costed 75 cents. It costed $1 where my arcade was.
The way I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, and then like ironically enough, like a couple of months go by. Now it's not working properly. Just the seat's leaning to the side and it stays that way, and you're having to play it like that or something. And I'm pretty sure maintenance on those things was crazy.
Well, yeah. And we actually, one of our new techs that just started, where he came from, they have all the modern games, and they had the full motion, not the small little roller coaster that they experience, but he had one that had like 6 seats. And he was talking about working on that, and it was like it was terrible. It was like, I mean, for one, you're always terrified that something's going to break and just actually kill you because there's all sorts of different pressures and stuff involved. And then those moving parts are hard. I mean, we know with pinball, right? So pinball is difficult. Can you imagine making the moving part the entire arcade game? The entire arcade game, all the way is constantly moving. So our full motion Power Drift, though we love it, it's the coolest thing, will not make it to the floor.
You know, Top Skater comes to mind for me.
Top Skater is an interesting, and that's a whole nother style of game that we haven't had, primarily because of the free play model that we have. It's so hard to keep games that interact with customers that way.
I would think like it would also be difficult with like, you know, again, the beer situation and
yeah,
oh my goodness.
you're gonna
who's in charge of cleaning up that puke?
It's gonna make a huge mess. It's I remember playing Top Skater at the Tilt arcade at the bottom of the old mall that was just outside of downtown, where they had like the magic shop. They had the restaurants at the top of the mall. It was cool.
It's great, and there were some really, really good players of that game back in the day too. I played it out at Sega GameWorks,
and it was
Great Van Mills Mall.
And yeah, because like it had like a huge projection screen, and so it felt pretty like you were getting into it.
One of the only like licensed soundtrack games I can remember in an arcade, that and Crazy Taxi.
Right. Well, in Crazy Taxi, like I was reading somewhere that there's a later arcade release of Crazy Taxi that like changed the music, and I was like, ruin the game. I don't even care what they did. Like that game is its music.
I need to listen to the music and drive to Pizza Hut.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was so. I mean, so yeah. So we're not against that, but yeah, those style of games are difficult. And to keep to the level of quality we have to at free play, because free play is just above. And some people have come to me and they've said it'll be good for a little bit, and then you can just take it off. And of course, that's not really. We're not really in the business of.
When will it kill somebody?
Right. We're not really in the business of introducing stuff that we know is just going to have to be taken away and putting all those. Because what most people don't realize is, though we're constantly maintaining, we have full-time techs working basically around the clock to keep our games running. Before they come out, there's probably 40 or 50 hours of tech work just on an average game before we're able to put it out into the world. So we can't just
especially a dedicated cab, which is what we kind of specialize in. Right. So yeah,
and of course the full motion. Who knows how long it would take to actually get that suitable for the audiences that we want.
I remember when you guys first got it too. Richard was like, "Well, it's just hydraulics. I could do it." And I was thinking, you would have to be a rocket scientist to get that working. He thinks he could do it, but at the same time, you know, you just.
Well, it's
and would it hurt somebody is totally different.
Yeah, well, getting all of that working is one thing. Getting it actually communicating with the game and moving when it's supposed to, that was the biggest maintenance issues that came up, is the actual interface where they talk. Once that thing starts going out, it's not only is it dangerous, it's no fun. Like the thing's just doing whatever it wants while you drive.
It's like Westworld, the arcade.
All right,
it's coming after you.
So yeah, full motion games. Probably not ever going to make it to free play. It's amazing. We want them out in the world. It's just, I mean, space. And yeah, I feel like even today, though, if they exist, and hopefully someone will tell us, Arcade Operator would have to charge like $1 or $2 to make it make sense.
Keep it working.
Right. I don't know, per play. And then people are like, why am I paying that much for this old game? And sounds like just a lose-lose no matter what.
Right.
Okay, so then this is a category of games that we've never had out that I think we're going to get out that I think is up there in the requests. Rhythm games.
Yeah, see, I was wondering if you're going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason we own rhythm games in the collection.
I go back and forth on my thoughts on it as well.
So DDR is the big, huge mammoth gorilla of, both the actual size of the game is massive and is very popular. And it was actually
it's the origin of the genre, more or less.
Yeah. Right, and DDR is relatively had its own controversies that don't even matter anymore. But there was a big, huge like Christian moms group that got upset at DDR because of like sensual dancing in the background.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness,
stuff like that. They said, I remember this. There was like a lawsuit.
If they had only seen DDR Gals Panic Edition, they would not have complained.
My God,
but they went the next step. They were like, not only does it encourage people to dance sensually, it encourages drug use. Like because no one that's sober would dance like that.
One is tap dancing sensually.
So games like DDR are in our collection. And
right.
It's really a balance and trying to figure out a way to introduce it, keep it running. Because that DDRs break, and there's nothing worse than a broken DDR. And there are other arcades in the world that run in the same kind of free play model that free play does that have tried it and of varying success. They universally have failed. They even the ones that are still running the game, and I don't care if they get mad at me, they break and they don't fix them fast enough, and they're always broken. They're always a problem, and that's even worse than not having it.
It's a rhythm game that you can't keep rhythm to?
Right.
Why would that be a problem?
Well, yeah, it's no fun. So we have purchased them, we've acquired them, because DDR is, also it's one of the top in the genre, period. Like, not only is it popular and pretty fun, it's good. Like,
the other thing with rhythm games is, part of the atmosphere, part of the very clear needed atmosphere of free play arcade is the 80s music and the late 90s hip hop. If you come on a weekend, it's interrupted by blasting DDR music, and in every corner of the arcade is you hear a different like soundtrack going on, and that's definitely authentic to the late 90s arcades, early 2000s arcades I went to. However, you wouldn't hear our ambiance at all.
Yeah, and one of the really big things that we've been getting, especially recently, as people open up arcades that are similar to ours, is people talking about our ambiance, talking about the environment and how it just feels so right.
Right.
And we've been very concerned that throwing a DDR, or even worse, which I'm not going to say it'll never be there, but it'll probably Guitar Hero.
I just don't see, like, unless you get one of the ones that has, headphone support.
Right.
That way you don't interfere with the other patrons' experience.
But then that, like, to me, that kind of starts to rob, like, DDR, for example.
I don't even know how you do it.
Is a communal experience anyways, right?
Right.
Because you're
dancing on the game.
People are watching you dance and wanting to, like, so there's no doubt in my mind that DDR will pop up at a free play. I don't know how long it'll stay. And that's the other issue, is people are very particular about their rhythm games. There are various different versions of DDR that the hardcore people, and that would be crushing, right? To spend all this time and effort to get a killer DDR out and then have the hardcore people complain that it's a different version or whatever.
Right.
Or there's one arcade that even recently was involved in litigation because there are different hacks for DDR where you just load all the songs.
Yes, yeah.
And which, whatever if you're in your house, but when you start charging
people, I would do it on a PC back in the day.
When you start charging people money for that, you probably should get sued. You're stealing.
Right.
And so that's a whole that's a whole nother thing that we'd have to deal with. But yeah, rhythm games, I think that they're worth exploring, but as a permanent part, I don't know. Yeah, and there have been people who've come and talked to me about how they've gone to another arcade that does something like this, whether in the area or not, and they're like, all I could hear was Guitar Hero and DDR and stuff. And
right,
the great thing is, that's all they could hear, and both of those games were broken at the time. Like because Guitar Hero was a great game, and I loved playing Guitar Hero with friends and stuff at our house. That was a lot of fun.
Still do it, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. The Guitar Hero arcade is kind of a weaker version to start with, and it's another weird user input that just gets smashed constantly. They're just not very durable, and so
even the console versions weren't very durable,
right?
Like
right. Well,
that's why they're worth so much right now,
right? And so it's
DJ Hero held up pretty good.
Well, that's sort of like the advancement of the rhythm genre. You had the more like a Paradise where you're waving through lasers and DJ type setups.
Well, and if you've seen the mod, so because like DDR works by you're stepping on switches basically,
right?
The modern ones use this big, huge screen that you're basically stepping on that is just pressure sensitive. That's actually much more reliable. Now that would totally if we try to roll something like that out, you'd totally take you out of free play entirely. But that is kind of how they've started to evolve to avoid those issues. Is these really cool monster screens?
I think they're really cool setups that they have for modern.
Well, we
games.
like rhythm games,
and
we think that someone should explore retro rhythm games, and we're not saying we'll never do that, but that's a whole another set of games that is going to be difficult to bring to free play, especially in the long term.
Then you would have I remember in particular DDR being at Dave & Buster's back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I would frequent there, and then of course there would be like their version of Chris Delp there, and I remember this one guy, every time I would go there, he would spend like hours on DDR, and he's just killing it. Right.
Well, that was that's kind of like the interesting thing. All of the free play arcades that I'm aware of, free play style arcades, that have introduced DDR, have eventually lost the hardcore players that were camping the games because they were broken all the time. So it's like they solved that problem by being terrible. Like, and it was, but you can only imagine the free play quality, because we're not going to let our game be broken.
Right.
Then it's going to be there will be a situation where the hardcore players are going to be there playing it, and to the detriment potentially of the normal people that would like to play it. So we haven't figured it out yet is the ultimate answer. And we think it's cool that some places have tried them. It has been a universal failure out in the world, just in terms of maintaining the quality in that type of environment. Because imagine, dancing with a cup of beer, you've got your pint glass and you've got your dance.
My goodness.
Switches go constantly. So, I know just about every one of our techs got really nervous when we started acquiring some of them because they were like, please don't do this to us.
Nice.
So we will have to find it, but that is one that hasn't come to free play yet, and will be a difficult one to see, especially long term. So can y'all think of anything else? Any other types of games that I've missed? So
they could not make it out.
Yeah. There are plenty of bad games that'll just never come out.
Right?
Obviously.
Yeah. Tekken 4.
Terrible games generally won't. And the thing is, there are a lot of games that you can find some merit in, but there are also plenty that just are the worst version of stuff. And hey, here's one you'll never find at free play: emulators.
Right. That. Okay. Yeah.
You will never find fake games at free play. And it's notorious in the industry, right? Hidden emulation is probably the biggest thing plaguing retro arcades right now, is people cheating and using fake versions and then putting everyone off on these really great games. So that we will never have.
It's nice to be spoiled by this place and never have to really I don't ever have to deal with that because I just come here. I remember going in and seeing the emulators at arcades that were open before free play, and I just never got back into it. It was like, okay, that's cool. They have 60 games in that machine that is completely broken. I might spend a quarter and then just go back to Jenga.
Could you imagine emulating Afterburner? Like You know, we could have Chris sit in a chair and then like.
I'm gonna lift you up.
Yeah, or, you know, we can have me and Chase just like moving the chair around.
I don't know if that's safer or more dangerous. I'm trying to figure out in my head which one would be preferable from
backyard afterburner
insurance perspective. Gosh,
that'd be so awesome.
Just sit in a chair. Yeah. We'll have someone else making the sounds.
I got one for you. Redemption games.
No redemption games. Yeah. Now that's what's kind of interesting. We were talking about Weird Game Month, and I can't. Was it Spray Gun? I think was the name.
Yeah. I guess that was a redemption game in some way.
That one was the only one that. So
okay, there's one that my girlfriend likes where you flip the table.
Right, the flip the table game.
Yeah.
That people love it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's just stupid.
There are. I mean, because a lot of games nowadays, and that the newer arcade games, it seemed like by the end of kind of the 90s and early 2000s, they were throwing ticket devices and all sorts of weird crap.
It makes me sad, yeah. It makes me sad because it means the gameplay has been re-engineered to basically be a slot machine.
And I don't know how Spray Gun works as a redemption game. Because Spray Gun is a game where you hold a fake bug sprayer and you kill bugs. And it... Now, this weird game was out for a week, and it broke like 4 times, and we went through like 4 spray guns, little fake guns, and it has like a little ball inside of it, so when you shake it, it actually sounds like you're shaking it.
I want to know if Joe Skills played it in the week it was out there.
Seriously. But yeah, that one, well, we thought we couldn't find this game. We searched and searched, and I was like, not for any good reason, I was like, where the heck did it go? It turned out it had been sitting in the old truck at Arlington for like a year, and no one had looked in that truck in that long, and that was like the one thing, because it had somehow been accidentally brought to Arlington when we were moving 100+ games to open Arlington, and then it got thrown in the old truck, and the old truck didn't move for a year because we didn't really need it. Sweet. And we found Spray Gun. But yeah, that's the only one that I'm aware of that had a. Now we do have what's the baseball game that spits out baseball cards?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of redemption.
Yeah, kind
of. But there are pinball games, and that's always makes me kind of sad. You'll be scrolling through the option menus, and it'll have a ticket option and on real pinballs, and you're like, whoa. Oh, come on, guys. Which I guess that would have been, if that was what it took to save pinball, I think I could have come to terms with it. But I mean, in many ways, pinball's back now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So yeah, no redemption games. There are no claw games, but not that I know
you like claw games.
I love claw games. I'm a big claw game fan. But we have a couple in the collection, more just personal because they were cool. And
they are still popular in Japan.
Well, we've considered doing things like on Halloween, having a free play candy thing. So that's how like you could come and get your Halloween candy is playing a crane type game. But yeah, we've never had any of those. No stackers or pile ups or those style redemptions. We still don't have a prize counter.
You managed to get a vertical pinball or 2 out there. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's just awesome. Which we just recently did a game of the week. So yeah, I mean, I think that mostly checks all the boxes. There are obviously a bunch of games that have been requested that we've either already brought out or will be. And that's
a lot of them that are just space problems,
right.
Big games that require large amounts of them linked together.
Well,
we have Daytona out there. It's huge as it is, but you could link 8 of them back in the day.
Yeah, and we've toyed with messing around with different Daytona setups and that kind of stuff. But yeah, some of the really, really massive games that weren't that good, but people have kind of a nostalgia memory for, kind of like Skate, but would be kind of in that category.
Have we scrapped the idea of opening up the only like Neo Geo bowling 40 machines? That's all there is, just 40 of them linked together.
I can't remember how many you can link. Yeah,
I think it's 40, something like that.
I think it's like 8, but
wow,
there's a ton.
But yeah, you can League Bowling is what it's called.
There you go.
For Neo Geo. It's actually kind of a fun game, and yeah, it was one of the only ones you could link, and we discovered that on accident because I was looking at through our cartridges, and I saw one that had like a little hole in it. I was like, "What the hell goes in there?" And it turns out a little link cable can go in there, and it has an in and an out, and you can keep linking Neo Geos together. I think that they tried to do it at Let's Play.
Yeah, well, with some of ours.
Did they have? Oh, right. I forgot.
Oops.
I think
that's where those went.
I think they had 4 of them linked at the time.
Yeah,
Let's
three,
Play.
I think 3 or 4. Yeah,
3. I think one of them didn't make it, but yeah, it's really cool concept. But yeah, we could open up like just an only linked League Bowling arcade.
Right, that's it. That's just 40 of those linked.
Just call it like League Night and have people rent lanes and they go to the Neo Geos. I'm in.
You have to come in dressed as your favorite Kingpin character.
So, all right, can we come up with any other types of games that?
No, because free play is cool and puts them out there anyway. I mean,
that's the thing. We have no games that are. That's probably a really good point to get into. We have no games that are off limits because of like value.
Right.
We have a dedicated Major Havoc sitting on the floor at Richardson. Dedicated Ampliphone, you name it, checks all the boxes, all original parts, numbers matching, out there, unlimited play. Anyone can go touch it.
Yeah, Dragon Slayer Laserdisc, that's insane. You got that baseball game in Arlington? What is that one? Home Run Derby?
Yeah.
Home Run Derby.
Well, Home Run Derby is one of the game options. I can't remember what the actual name of the game is because they made 2 of them.
I don't know, but it has this like bat.
The little stick.
Yeah.
You just pull the stick.
It looks like the most like destroyable thing in the world. But it's been a trooper.
Yeah, I bought a whole
But even like blah, blah, blah. You can use your N64 cart in Blitz 99 in Free Play Arlington.
It's true.
You can use a PS2 controller in Tekken 5 DR.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, there's nothing that's off limits in terms, as long as it's cool, it'll go there. And
do we have any of the Neo Geo? Because the Neo Geo could use memory cards as well.
Yeah, I think 2 of our Neo Geos have functioning memory ports. For no reason, because you can't really use them.
Right. Just go back in time.
Right.
Spend $600 back in 1988 to get a Neo Geo, and then you can transfer your save games from your Neo Geo at home to the same game at Free Play Arcade.
Ooh, how about one that, well, only because it's rare, but one, and ironically enough, we've almost
He's about to mention a game he has.
No. It's not a game I have. It's not a game I have. But ironically enough, how about one that could cause physical hand damage, and that was the original Street Fighter 1.
One-player Street Fighter, 2-button Street Fighter.
Yeah, so we have a Street Fighter 1 board set laying around, but the other thing is it had a dedicated cabinet and
with the punch buttons.
But yeah, the punch buttons break, and they're not replaceable really.
Right. Also, broken hands, not replaceable.
Everyone got hurt. So yeah. If we had one in the collection that was fully functioning, I would let people play. I would put it out at free play, but it would probably have to be like a one-off.
Was that one where you'd throw a football through the little hole as hard as you could? Remember that one?
Oh yeah, that one was cool. Jerry might be good at Street Fighter 1. With the
oh my god, yeah,
he'd be the champion.
The Jerry, he might be OP in that game. Yeah. That's where he learned.
So Street Fighter 1 of course had pressure sensitive punch and kick button pad things that were ripped out of just about every one of the Street Fighter ones so that they could just replace them with buttons.
Here's one that I actually saw on the floor of Free Play Arcade, but you guys didn't turn it on back in the Arlington beta days, that arm wrestling one, right?
Yeah. So that
sounds dangerous.
I mean, I definitely think there's a place for it, and we wanted to try to get it out. But there's a gear motor issue that was so.
Well, it's because Beltran tore it off.
Right. I didn't even play
testing of it.
Well, yeah, and it worked perfectly, except you didn't get the right feedback, and so it either lock up or just fall down. And there's a number of those out there that are still real arcades that have real arcade monitors, tell stories, do all that stuff while you're arm wrestling. So that kind of stuff can pop up, but we're obviously not out there seeking it. Same with like the little drop-down boxing. That'll probably never come. I've had probably a million opportunities to buy those because those were the highest money earners ever about 5 or 6 years ago. You'd see people paying near retail after they'd been out for a year because people couldn't buy them fast enough. They were making so much money in bars. And now, fortunately, that's fallen off because it's a dumb game.
Yeah.
Because you just hit a bag and it gives you basically a random number.
Or the ones that weren't games at all, like the one where it's the Addams Family branded one where it literally just shocks you. That's
the
it.
electric
thing. That's it. It just shocks you.
That was so cool.
I think as a novelty, those are kind of cool, yeah. But you will not see one of those. I think you got tickets randomly for that too.
Yes, that's correct.
It would shock you and spit out tickets, and that was the game.
Congratulations, you survived a little bit of torture. Have a piece of paper.
So the original Street Fighter 1. If we happen to, I don't even know. There's one in Japan at that Goofy arcade that you walk through and it's like a labyrinth at the bottom, and they've done like all
right. The one
that arcade actually has an original pressure sensitive Street Fighter 1 in the next floor that's like a weird theme room.
This guy just wants to see Sagat be champion at something.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so the problem there is most of them have just been ripped out for real buttons, and because they were doing it then at the time because the real buttons worked infinitely better.
Yes.
So yeah, there's nothing off. But yeah, I can't think of anything that we've ever. I mean, we have dedicated Major Havoc out. We have Discs of Tron out. So yeah, I can't think of anything. I mean, we even put Night Driver out, even though it's almost impossible to get to work on free play. There's no such thing as a free play setting, and it doesn't really work with any of the credit buttons or anything. We had Night Driver out. Beautiful. It was a fun game.
Oh yeah, Night Driver. That one is good. I like that one.
So yeah, I think that's about it. So we hear it, but if there's a game out there that you're thinking, why don't they put it out? The answer is almost always it's going to come out.
Right.
Give us
a new one a week.
Right. We've been open for more than 2 years, which means we've actually at this point rotated 130 or so games through Richardson while still maintaining the core lineup of the Miss Packs, the Tron, and all of those. So every single week we average at least a game a week. And we don't want to just have them all out at the same time. You know, we actually like to curate and rotate, and that's why some games we haven't brought out yet.
Also, we like arcade games. I get requests for like, oh, I beat you on the Super Nintendo version of this many times. I hear it all the time.
Yeah. People played a lot of Super Street Fighter on SNES,
right.
And they have spoken to me a lot about how that was, and like they're like, that was the version that was great, and I'm like, no, it really wasn't. And they're like, but I remember playing that too. It was
man.
It was just popular, right?
How could NBA Jam Tournament Edition compete with NBA Jam Tournament Edition on the Sega Genesis?
Well, yeah. So yeah, people definitely have these weird fond memories, and we do focus on dedicated arcades.
Right.
The things that other people can't do is generally like you couldn't have all these games really in your home. Most other arcades can't. Except for him, can't run.
Oh
these.
My god.
He's got it the 100 now at his house. All dedicated. Which I mean, as a celebrity superstar, I guess that's
now you need them.
We almost made it.
He had a basketball court and he just turned it into an arcade.
We almost made it.
It's really cool though to have like if you've been to his basketball court, he has
don't have a basketball
because
court.
He doesn't have like the hoops in there anymore. He has an NBA Jam Tournament Edition on one side and an NBA Showtime on the other side. It's really sweet.
That's a good basketball collection.
Yeah.
Some Double Dribble might be good.
Yeah.
It would be.
Arch Rivals.
Oh yeah, Arch Rivals. Oh yeah, I love Arch Rivals. Actually.
What was the actually
Run and Gun? That was a Link one.
Yeah. But yeah, that was so. Double Dribble's never been out. Games like that. There are some games that just didn't age very well.
Play Twist 10. Double Dribble made it out.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Play Twist 10.
I remember hearing Keith Carlson screaming at the top of his lungs when he put it out.
So that's the thing. I love Double Dribble, but if you compare it to like NBA Jam, it's really hard to justify having a Double Dribble out.
Yeah.
And most people, I mean, but yeah, anything that's on the plate, we have every single Play Choice 10 game. We have every single. No, we don't have every single Neo Geo. We have a lot of Neo Geo.
Yeah, we have like 98% of everyone ever made.
We don't have all. There's some weird soccer games that were like released only in Europe that we don't have and stuff. And they made a lot of weird soccer games for Neo Geo. So there's something like 10 of those that we don't have. And then there's all the Mahjongs. And we have some Mahjong because I can't help myself, but we're not going to buy all of the Neo Geo.
Is that the other type that cannot make it to the floor? Is Mahjong games?
Man, well, so gambling games, yeah, that's actually a good point.
There you go, yeah, no gambling games.
So eight-liners and those type of slot machine type games are specifically forbidden they're also illegal. I don't know why they did this, but they also are, it's specifically illegal in our municipal code that they passed to let free play open. And then also it's illegal generally, though you'll see them in just about every convenience store in Richardson. I don't understand how they get away with that. It irritates me because not only are we specifically prohibited, they were already illegal, and you can find them anywhere in town, and they're just stupid.
Yeah.
And as someone who likes casino games, those are the worst casino games. Those are the worst of all the games. So yeah, we'll never have any gambling. It's illegal in the state of Texas. I don't know. I think they're making. What was it? There was. I believe there is a tribe that has their reservation in Texas that is trying to open up a casino, and they're fighting for the right to do it. And I think they might get it. I think Texas might get its first casino.
Whoa!
Nice. So because right now, if people are unfamiliar, everyone in Texas either drives to Oklahoma or Louisiana to go to a casino.
Right. It's legal in Louisiana, and there are Native American reservations in Oklahoma that allow it.
So yeah, I think that's about it. I think that wraps it. I think we've pretty much covered it. Those are the games that won't be coming. We're really sad.
Yeah, so it's no motion games.
No motion. No full motion games.
Working on how to implement rhythm games. No games that feature gratuitous nudity, even though they have amazing gameplay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good they are. Right. No nudity is probably coming to free play.
And no Tekken 4.
No Tekken 4.
Oh. Awesome.
So we will sign off from the Free Play Lab. We are out of here.
Good night, everybody. Everybody send your fan mail to Michael Beltran.
And tell us the full motion games that still exist.
Bye.
Bye.